Awakening the Millionaire Mind. Before we begin, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell. Because what you're about to hear has the power to transform your life from the inside out. It's not an exaggeration. It's a journey that begins in your mind but ends at your destination. Napoleon Hill dedicated decades of his life to discovering why some prosper easily, while others struggle against the tide. And you know what he discovered? That the difference isn't in work, nor in luck. It's in thought. The Bible said this long before Hill. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. In other words, you become what you believe yourself to be. If you think like someone limited, you will live limited. But if you start thinking like someone born to win, the entire universe conspires to confirm that belief. It's the invisible power of faith, mind, and action, the three pillars that transform any reality. The problem is that we've been conditioned to believe the opposite. From a young age, we hear phrases like, "Money doesn't buy happiness," "It's a sin to want more," or "That's not for us." But Napoleon Hill proved, and the Bible confirmed, that these ideas are mental traps that keep people stuck in a state of scarcity. The first step to changing your life isn't working more. It's thinking differently. From today onward, every word you hear here will reprogram your mind for prosperity. You will understand why some attract money while sleeping, while others repel it while awake. You will discover that wealth is not chance, it's a consequence. And most importantly, that prospering is not a sin, it's purpose. So get ready, because this journey will challenge everything you believed about success, faith, and money. The transformation begins now, where it all originates, your mind. The invisible difference between those who attract money and those who repel it. Do you know what Napoleon Hill discovered after studying hundreds of wealthy people? That wealth doesn't begin in the wallet, it begins in the mind. And that's exactly what the Bible teaches as well. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. If you think like someone who lives only to survive, your life will reflect that. But when you begin to think like someone destined for abundance, doors begin to open. Most people believe that money comes only from hard work. Hill said the opposite. Money responds to mindset, faith, and clarity of purpose. That's why some work 12 hours a day and remain in the same place, while others, with the same workload, build empires. The difference lies in what feeds the mind every day. Want to do a simple test? Look at your words. The Bible says that life and death are in the power of the tongue. Proverbs 18:21. If you keep repeating that it's difficult, no one gets rich honestly, money is dirty, you are sowing scarcity. Start declaring the opposite. God is my source. I attract opportunities. I prosper to bless others. These affirmations reprogram the subconscious. Napoleon Hill called this autosuggestion. Repeat ideas of faith and abundance until they become part of who you are. He said that the mind is like a garden. If you don't plant, the weeds grow on their own. Therefore, nourish it with gratitude, reading, prayer, and a focus on growth. Everything you think about with enough faith ends up taking shape. And when this new mindset begins to flourish, something incredible happens. You stop chasing money and start attracting it naturally. But hold on, that's just the beginning. Because when the mind expands, fear appears. And that's where the next secret of Hill's teachings and the Bible comes in. The fear of risk is the greatest thief of prosperity. Napoleon Hill said that fear is merely corrupted faith, and the Bible confirms it. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and self-control. Timothy 1:7. Fear is the invisible brake that prevents you from seeing what God has prepared. It whispers, "It won't work. It's dangerous. It's not the right time." But if you wait for the perfect moment, it never comes. Hill observed that all great conquerors faced fear head-on. They didn't ignore the risk. They just didn't let it dictate their decisions. When you act with wisdom and faith, risk becomes a bridge. It's Peter's step out of the boat. The sea was still rough, but the focus was on Jesus, not the storm. Many people confuse prudence with paralysis. Prudence is studying, planning, and acting with purpose. Paralysis is waiting for everyone's approval. Hill recommended writing plans and testing them on a small scale. And the Bible teaches the same thing in Ecclesiastes 11:6. In the morning sow your seed, and in the evening do not let your hand be idle, for you do not know which will prosper. Want to see the difference in practice? An entrepreneur filled with fear saves energy trying to avoid mistakes. The other, with faith and purpose, learns from each attempt. The first seeks security, the second seeks wisdom. And it is precisely this wisdom, guided by God, that makes him prosper. When you understand that fear is merely an invitation to grow, it loses its power. It's at that moment that you step outside your comfort zone and realize what seemed like an abyss was just the foundation of the next phase. And that's where one of the most precious virtues of all comes in: the emotional discipline. Emotional discipline, the foundation of true wealth. Napoleon Hill stated that those who cannot master their emotions will never master their financial life. And the Bible goes even further. Better is the patient man than the warrior, and he who masters himself is better than he who conquers a city. Proverbs 16:32. Controlling oneself in the face of chaos is an invisible, yet extremely profitable power. How many times have you made a hasty decision and regretted it later? The market crashed, and you sold out of fear. A project was delayed, and you gave up. The spiritual millionaire, the one who combines wisdom and faith, acts differently. He breathes, prays, analyzes, and only then does he act. He understands that patience is not passivity. It is divine strategy. Hill said that emotion is the fuel of faith. If misdirected, it explodes. If used well, it propels. Therefore, when you feel anger, transform it into productive energy. When you feel anxiety, transform it into planned action. And when you feel fear, remember Philippians 4:6. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. Emotional discipline also manifests itself in consistency. Praying one day and doubting the next builds nothing solid. Prosperity is the fruit of repetition. Right thoughts, right words, right actions. Hill called this emotional persistence, maintaining faith even when results are not yet visible. And when you master your emotions, money ceases to be a roller coaster. You begin to live with purpose, balance, and faith in God. And it is precisely in this inner harmony that the next step in this journey is born: understanding the true purpose of prosperity. Purpose, the real reason why money exists. Napoleon Hill said that money is an excellent servant, but a terrible master. And the Bible directly confirms this. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Matthew 6:21. When money becomes the center of life, it becomes a prison, but when it is put at the service of a purpose, it transforms into an instrument of liberation. The problem is that many people seek to get rich without understanding why, and end up getting lost along the way. Purpose is what gives meaning to prosperity. Hill called this a defined purpose, and asserted that no one achieves true success without knowing exactly what they want and why. And the Bible reinforces the same principle in Habakkuk 2:2. Write the vision, inscribe it on tablets, so that he who reads it may run. When there is clarity, there is direction. When there is direction, money flows. Many people confuse purpose with profession. But purpose is the impact your existence has. A doctor's purpose might be to heal bodies, a teacher's to heal minds, An entrepreneur's purpose might be to create jobs, and when you align your faith with that purpose, prosperity ceases to be a race and becomes a consequence. Hill said that wealth is only lasting when it blesses other people. Want to find your purpose? Ask yourself, what would I do for free if I didn't need money? What kind of problem was I born to solve? Then pray and listen. The answer comes, sometimes silently, sometimes in the form of an unexpected opportunity. The Bible says that many are the plans of man, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Proverbs 19:21. To prosper is to align oneself with this plan. When you understand that purpose is the engine of prosperity, the fear of failure disappears. Because it's no longer about ego, it's about legacy. Hill said that the greatest winners are those who work for something that transcends them. And it is precisely at this point that prosperity rises to another level, that of inspired action, the next step in this journey. Inspired action, faith in motion. Napoleon Hill said that desire is the starting point of all achievement, but action is what transforms desire into reality. And the Bible reinforces this with simplicity and power. Faith without works is dead. James 2:17. It's no use praying for prosperity if your actions continue to contradict what you claim to believe. Faith is a verb. It's movement. It's putting your foot in the water even before you see the bridge appear. Inspired action is not acting on impulse, it is acting guided by clarity and faith. Hill called this acting with purpose, and said that every idea accompanied by belief and execution takes on a life of its own. When you pray, visualize, and take the first step, the entire universe conspires in your favor, because you leave the realm of thought and enter the territory of creation. It is at this point that the invisible begins to become visible. How many times have you said, "One day I'll start," and that day never came? Inspired action is the antidote to procrastination. Start small, but start. The man who planted a tree didn't wait for perfect weather. He just dug the hole. It's the same principle the Bible teaches in Ecclesiastes 11:4. He who observes the wind will not sow, and he who looks at the clouds will not reap. Hill explained that the difference between those who win and those who stand still is the decision. Deciding means cutting off other possibilities. It's choosing to believe in something and proving it with actions. Even if you fail, those who act learn. Those who wait rust. And often, the path only becomes clear after you start walking. God doesn't show the whole map. He shows the next step. Therefore, every small action you take with faith is a sign to heaven. It's like saying, "Lord, I am ready for what is to come." And when you unite faith, purpose, and movement, a power is born that nothing can stop. Hill said that whoever acts, guided by conviction, creates their own destiny. And it is at this point that the journey completely changes direction, because what comes next is the secret that sustains it all. Persistence. Persistence, the litmus test of faith and wealth. Napoleon Hill said that persistence is the trial by fire that separates winners from quitters. And the Bible clearly confirms this principle. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Galatians 6:9. In other words, the seed of faith needs time. The problem is that most people plant today and want to harvest tomorrow. And when the result doesn't appear quickly, they give up, just on the eve of the harvest. Persistence is not stubbornness. It is conviction. Hill observed that all great conquerors failed before they succeeded. Edison failed more than 10,000 times before the light bulb lit up. Joseph was sold by his brothers before ruling Egypt. The difference is that none of them stopped halfway. They believed in the vision even when the scenario suggested otherwise. To persist is to keep walking, even when the ground seems to disappear beneath them. The Bible calls this walking by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5:7. Hill called it applied faith. Persistence is the point where dreams cease to be ideas and become habits. Reading a book on prosperity once inspires. Reading every day transforms. Making an effort for a week is enthusiasm. Doing it for a year is discipline. And it is this consistency that shapes destiny. Want to put this into practice? Choose an area of your life, finances, spirituality, or health, and commit to it for 30 consecutive days. No excuses, no interruptions. When fatigue sets in, remember Nehemiah rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem amidst mockery. He didn't stop to respond to the criticism, he simply continued building. And it was this silent persistence that made the impossible happen. Hill said that persistence is the power to resurrect dead dreams. It transforms locked doors into portals of opportunity. It's the point where God tests whether you are ready to receive what you asked for. Because great promises require mature faith. And when you understand this, you realize that every delay, every obstacle, and every no is part of the refinement that prepares the ultimate yes. And it is precisely here that the next stage begins. Unwavering faith. The force that moves mountains and makes miracles happen. Unwavering faith. The power that transforms thought into reality. Napoleon Hill said that faith is the starting point of all wealth. But he wasn't talking about an abstract faith, but rather a living, practical force that moves the mind and body in the right direction. The Bible confirms this principle when Jesus says, "Everything is possible for one who believes." Mark 9:23. That is why those who truly believe do not wait for the ideal scenario. They create the scenario through the conviction they carry within. Unwavering faith is faith that doesn't depend on what the eyes see. It's believing even when the accounts are in the red, even when the diagnosis is negative, even when the dream seems far away. Hill called this emotionalized belief. Faith with feeling. Faith that vibrates. Faith that acts. The Bible calls it the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1. Having faith is not closing your eyes to reality. It is seeing beyond it. It is saying, "Though the fig tree does not blossom, yet I will rejoice in God." Habakkuk 3:17-18. Hill observed that people of true faith become magnets for opportunities because they emanate a different energy. They don't ask desperately, they declare with confidence, and this inner assurance alters behavior, decisions, and consequently, results. Want to exercise that faith? Start with small acts. Pray before acting. Give thanks before receiving. Declare before seeing. Do as David did before Goliath. He didn't wait for victory to believe. He believed and therefore won. Hill said that faith needs repetition. Repeating thoughts of abundance, of deserving, and of victory until they become the natural pattern of the mind. And when that faith matures, it becomes a shield. No external obstacle can extinguish a conviction that has been ignited within the soul. This is the faith that attracts opportunities, the right people, and improbable paths. It is the faith that calms the heart and accelerates results. And the most beautiful thing is that it is not born from effort, but from communion with the Creator. And it is precisely from this connection with God that the next step comes. The power of gratitude, the fuel that keeps prosperity flowing. Gratitude, the secret code that multiplies blessings. Napoleon Hill said that gratitude is the emotion that keeps the mind attuned to abundance. And the Bible gets straight to the point. Give thanks in all circumstances. 2 Thessalonians 5:18. It's not for everything, but in everything, even during difficult times. Because gratitude doesn't just change your mood, it changes the frequency of your mind. Those who are grateful open themselves up to more. Those who complain close the door to miracles before they arrive. Hill observed that spiritually rich people give thanks even before seeing the result. They know that the universe, or rather God, responds to a trusting heart. It's like Jesus before the multiplication of the loaves. Before dividing, he raised his eyes and gave thanks. The miracle didn't begin in the basket, it began in the attitude. Gratitude was the seed that multiplied the impossible. Have you ever noticed that the more you focus on what you have, the more you seem to receive? This is no coincidence. Hill explained that the subconscious is a faithful servant. It amplifies what it receives. If you feed your mind with complaints, you will see reasons to complain. But if you feed it with gratitude, you will see opportunities around every corner. It's a spiritual and mental filter that defines what flourishes around you. Want to put this into practice? Start and end your day by listing 3 things you are grateful for. It can be simple: the air you breathe, your breakfast, a smile you received. The Bible teaches that whoever is faithful in little is also faithful in much. Luke 16:10. Gratitude is this exercise, recognizing the little as much until the much becomes normal. Hill said that gratitude is the magnet of prosperity, and he was right. It not only attracts more blessings, but transforms the heart. Because those who are grateful live lightly, and those who live lightly create with more clarity. And it is precisely in this state of lightness and faith that the next step of the journey emerges, the legacy, the purpose of multiplying the good you have received. Legacy, transforming blessings into eternal seeds. Napoleon Hill said that true success is measured by the number of lives touched, and the Bible teaches the same principle. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Proverbs 13:22. Legacy is not what you accumulate, it's what you plant. It's the invisible impact that continues to flourish even when you are no longer present. When prosperity is driven only by ego, it ends with the person. But when it is born from purpose, it transcends generations. Hill observed that the richest people in essence are those who understand that money is merely a tool. It serves to build schools, feed families, fund ideas, and change destinies. The Bible confirms this when it says that it is better to give than to receive. Acts 20:35. The act of giving does not diminish. It multiplies. What flows, grows. What stagnates, rots. Leaving a legacy means understanding that you are merely a channel. Everything that comes to you, talent, resources, opportunities, comes with a mission: to be shared. Hill said that whoever accumulates knowledge and does not share it is like someone who lights a candle and hides it under a bucket. Light was made to illuminate paths. To prosper is to do good with wisdom, to plant what God has placed in your hands. Want to start today? Choose a cause that moves your heart and contribute what you can. Time, talent, or resources. Teach what you've learned, help someone get started, or simply listen to those in need. Legacy begins with small gestures. And the more you give, the more God trusts you to give even more. Hill said that the universe returns double what you give with love. And when life becomes about service, money loses its weight and gains purpose. Prosperity ceases to be about numbers and becomes about meaning. And it is at this point that mind and spirit enter into total harmony. The next step is the conclusion of this journey, the moment to unite everything that has been learned into one simple and powerful truth. The transformation begins within. Inner transformation, the true source of prosperity. Napoleon Hill said that the human mind is the only thing that man can completely control. And the Bible echoes the same truth. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may prove what the will of God is, that which is good and acceptable and perfect. Romans 12:2. Every outward change begins within. It is impossible to live a new life thinking with an old mind. To prosper is not just to make money, it is to evolve as a person, as a spirit, as a consciousness. Hill discovered that poverty isn't in wallets, it's in beliefs. While most try to change their circumstances, the wise change the roots. And the Bible shows this clearly. A good tree bears good fruit. Matthew 7:17. When the mind is filled with faith, purpose, gratitude, and action, the fruits inevitably appear. Prosperity is not a prize, it's the natural reflection of those who live in alignment with principles. Have you ever noticed that when you are at peace, everything flows? That's because the external obeys the internal. Hill said that success is not conquered, it is attracted. And God confirms this spiritual pattern when He promises in Deuteronomy 28 that blessings will reach you when you walk the right path. The secret, then, is not to chase after things, but to become the kind of person that the right things seek out. Transforming oneself from within requires honesty and daily practice. It's about observing thoughts, watching words, and redirecting intentions. When the mind is filled with faith and the heart is cleansed of fear, abundance becomes a natural state. Hill called this the vibration of prosperity. The Bible calls it life in abundance. John 10:10. Ultimately, it's the same principle expressed in different languages. Aligning oneself with the source. And when that alignment happens, everything changes. Money becomes a service, challenges become lessons, and life begins to taste like a mission. It's the point where the human being understands that they no longer need to look outside for what has always been within. That's where the power to attract, create, and share is born. And what comes next completes this entire cycle. The awareness of true freedom, the pinnacle of the millionaire mind's journey. True freedom, the wealth that money can't buy. Napoleon Hill said that freedom is the ultimate goal of all human achievement. And the Bible powerfully confirms this. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. John 8:32. True freedom doesn't come from paying bills, it comes from a clear conscience. It's not about possessing more, it's about not being possessed by anything. Money can buy comfort, but only wisdom and faith bring peace. Hill observed that many who reached the top remained empty, prisoners of worries, status, and fear of losing what they had gained. Those who learned to trust in God, however, live lightly, even amidst challenges. They understood that freedom is not the absence of struggle, but the absence of inner imprisonment. A liberated mind sees opportunities where others only see obstacles. The Bible teaches that, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. 2 Corinthians 3:17. This means that true prosperity is spiritual before it is material. When you understand that you are a child of an abundant God, the fear of lack disappears. Hill said that those who depend only on their own effort live exhausted, but those who learn to work with faith live in flow. Peace becomes their greatest asset. Want to experience this freedom? Start by letting go. Let go of control, of haste, of fear. Do what is within your reach and entrust the rest to the Creator. The millionaire in mind and soul is not defined by their bank balance, but by their ability to sleep peacefully. They plant with dedication and rest in the promise, because they know that God never delays a harvest. Hill asserted that true success is living your own way, at peace with your conscience, and in harmony with divine purpose. And when this inner freedom manifests, money returns to its rightful place, a tool, not its owner. It is the state where the spirit commands, the mind serves, and matter obeys. And it is at this point that the journey reaches its climax. The understanding that a mind trained in faith and gratitude creates paradise wherever it is. The inner paradise, living life to the fullest in the here and now. Napoleon Hill said that the mind is the only heaven or hell that man carries with him, and the Bible translates this same wisdom in Philippians 4:11. I've learned to be content in every situation. True prosperity is achieving that state of inner peace, where nothing external has the power to steal that balance. It's when the soul understands that happiness is not the destination, but the journey. Hill observed that the most fulfilled people were not those who had the most money, but those who had purpose, faith, and serenity. The Bible confirms this in Proverbs 10:22. The blessing of the Lord brings wealth, and he adds no sorrow to it. This means that true wealth is that which does not weigh you down, does not corrode you, does not consume you. It simply overflows. It is the balance between being, having, and serving. To live in inner paradise is to choose to see the good even in difficult times. It's understanding that every challenge comes as an invitation from God to grow. Hill said that adversity carries within it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. When you understand this, you stop complaining and start asking, "What can I learn from this?" This simple change alters everything, because it transforms pain into power. The Bible teaches that the kingdom of God is within you, Luke 17:21. In other words, paradise is not a distant place. It is a state of consciousness. It is when the mind and heart are aligned with faith, gratitude, and purpose. Hill called this state creative peace, the point where the mind stops struggling and begins to flow. In this flow, intuition becomes clear, and opportunities arise naturally. And when you live in that vibration, you lack nothing, because abundance becomes your nature, not your pursuit. This is the secret that Hill spent his whole life teaching, and that the Bible confirmed millennia ago. Everything begins and ends within you, and it is from here, from this state of fullness, that true transformation is born, the moment when faith becomes life, and life becomes testimony. True wealth begins within you. Now that you've come this far, tell me, what are you going to do with everything you've learned? Napoleon Hill said that knowledge only becomes power when it is put into practice. And the Bible reinforces this. Be doers of the word, and not hearers only. James 1:22. In other words, it's not enough to understand. You need to apply. The mind was created to act, not just to dream. And when you put what you've learned into action, the invisible begins to respond. Wealth isn't out there, waiting for you to find it. It already dwells within, ready to flourish. All God needs is a willing heart, active faith, and a mind trained to believe in the impossible. Napoleon Hill spent his life saying that whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And the Bible confirms this. Everything is possible for one who believes. Marcos 9:23. So ask yourself, what will you do today to live according to that faith? Will you continue repeating old patterns, or will you begin to reprogram your thoughts, your words, and your attitudes? Change doesn't require a giant leap. It requires the first step. A new thought. A decision to no longer accept scarcity as destiny. Remember, you were created to thrive, not just survive. Each principle you've learned here, faith, gratitude, purpose, persistence, and emotional discipline, is a divine seed planted in the soil of your mind. Nurture it daily with prayer, focus, and action. The harvest will come in due time. And before you leave your like, with subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell to continue learning about faith, prosperity, and a millionaire mindset in the light of Napoleon Hill and the Word of God. Share this video with someone who needs this awakening, because when a mind changes, the world around it changes too.